Hello and welcome to Gritty Reboot, the show where we make fun of TV's sticky, dark, dirty side. I'm joined today by Kevin James, who was kind enough to lace our syrup with drugs this morning. Kevin, how are you?
Now that I've had those pancakes, I'm feeling great. We're also joined today by Hunter Markham. Hunter, how are things down at the bus station?
Pretty dang good. I've bought tickets to several different cities now, and maybe later I'll actually get on one of these buses.
Oh, it's so sweet that you think that might happen. We'll see you later at Pops, Hunter.
I had no idea that people actually left on buses. I thought the thing to do at bus stations was angrily demand tickets and then fall asleep in the lobby.
Wait, is that that seems to be a trope, because I remember an episode of Boy Meets World where Sean Hunter goes to the bus station and buys a ticket and then doesn't leave. I don't think anyone on a TV show is allowed to leave on a bus.
No, you just end up in the bus station. It's like purgatory.
Wow, so that means that the strongest characters in all of TV must be Lindsay Weir from Freaks and Geeks, because she actually did get on a bus and leave town.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I was going to go with Joaquin DeSantos from Riverdale.
I'm going to miss him, Preppy.
He was one of the only characters that I thought they could have done some more stuff with. Hopefully he's back.
I'm not even sure why he's leaving town. The murder is wrapped up and no one but FP knew he was involved, and he wasn't really involved to begin with.
Kevin was just getting a little too clingy, and it seemed like a good excuse to get out of that relationship without having a tough conversation.
Maybe he's the reverse John Travolta. He's actually a closeted heterosexual.
Alright, I'm looking at the notes. Anatomy of a Murder. I should have known it was some movie that I'd never heard of. I'm not big on 1959 courtroom dramas.
I know, 1958 is when those things really shone. After that, it's all downhill.
And whenever it was 12 Angry Men?
I've never actually been able to sit through all 12 Angry Men.
9 or 10, sure, but all 12, too many. But yes, this is a 1959 courtroom drama, which makes perfect sense because this episode had absolutely no courtrooms. And, well, it did have a little bit of drama.
It had a lot more drama than last week's episode. I was
That's for sure.
Real down on last week's, and this week, I don't know, it felt like when you're really just filthy and you go and take a nice long shower. This episode washed away all the sins of the previous episode, and I'm able to once more enjoy Riverdale.
Yes, actual things happened, which was lovely.
It felt like somewhere between a quarter and a third of all of the plot for the season was just in this episode.
Yes, but since there's no courtroom drama and Anatomy of a Murder is probably not the best title, what would you rather title this?
This was a tough one to come up with alternate titles for, or maybe it just was for me.
No, it was tough. I apologize for kind of breaking our completely self-imposed rules that we're not all consistent with, but everyone loves Arrested Development, so my proposed title for this episode is Le Cousin Dangereux.
Excellent.
Keeping with my theme of just references to really bad songs, Hanging by a Moment, everyone's favorite Lifehouse song.
Yes.
And then I just had All in the Family, A Family Affair, and Cestivus for the Rest of Us, and 7 other incest jokes as titles.
Yeah, that makes sense. I stuck with actual films, which was a mistake on my part. So I have The White Cliffs Are Over, In the Sweet of the Night, and The Viridian Mile.
But let's get into the cultural references.
This red-haired kid comes up to me at the bar, a white worm.
Enough of this Dr. Moreau experimentation in breeding and eugenics.
But whenever I have a hole in my jacket pocket, I always lose my chapstick in the lining.
Or my Mont Blanc.
Nancy drew strikes again.
So yeah, that's it.
Also the Vogue closet.
Oh yeah, that was right near the beginning where Veronica says that FP's closet was not the Vogue closet. I appreciated the H.G. Wells Dr. Moreau reference, and I'm really glad, Kevin, that you did not try to weasel out of the whole reference to the pen brand that Veronica uses.
Oh, you know I have a rant ready to go on this. Let's talk fountain pens, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. Pentertainment tonight.
Oh, no.
Oh no. What have we unleashed?
I had an inkling you were going to do this.
Oh no. Not pen puns. Let's just get to the point. Let's just grind this down to the nib.
Okay, fine.
Look, it's time for us to get serious, okay? But okay, so Mont Blanc is like a very classic luxury pin brand. I would say it's a higher level than Parker, but not as high up there as the Namiki Makie hand-illustrated pens. It's probably about on par with the Visconti, so it makes sense that, I'm so sorry.
I had in my notes, like, Kevin's gonna try to weasel out of this. I better razz him about the fact that he and Veronica both share a passion for pens, but you walked right into this trap.
Yeah, I walked in. I've actually never used a Mont Blanc. They're pretty expensive, and they seem... I mean, this is gonna come across very, very smug and self-satisfied, but they seem like not very interesting. They're kind of like a standard... like pen. I'm sure everyone else, like, they're all pens, they're all standard, but even among fountain pens, Mont Blancs, they're known for quality but not for like variety or anything interesting about them. It's just like a really well made standard.
So like Veronica, they're pretty bland.
Mm-hmm.
This seems perfect for her.
Yes. Kevin also went on a pen rant as we were watching this, and that's my boyfriend, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so proud.
Let me tell you guys all about Namiki Makies now.
Oh.
Stop making up words.
Look, these Japanese artisans train for 20 years to be able to make these pens and hand illustrate a symbolism and imagery on them. It deserves to be wider known.
All right, so this is now what the podcast is about. Welcome
I told you, Pentertainment tonight.
We are changing the title. We're changing our whole direction. Were there any other cultural references that stood out to you, or were you really just writing pages upon pages of notes by hand about pens?
You know the answer to this.
There's no others. Where do we go from here? We can't top this.
I guess maybe we should talk about the actual episode.
Are you sure? I have some opinions to share about Twisby pens.
No, let's talk about the episode. Sarah, please.
Let's talk
Please.
about this episode. So we start out with A, B, and V discussing the B and E on the QT.
Wow, that was a sentence.
Yeah, thank you.
Say that 3 times fast. But don't. It just like picks up right at where the end of last episode left off. So last episode was all just prologue to something actually happening.
It was just 42 minutes of setup.
And we get the reveal that, like, now Betty knows that FP was framed, the gun was put in his trailer by someone who went in after Veronica and Archie, and their first impulse is to go to Luke Perry because he's going to solve the problem.
Yes.
Obviously.
That whole scene with the parents is so great. They're always like, so look, we broke and entered, and we found out that FP's innocent. Like, wow. No, this is not true. FP is a criminal. Don't care if you have evidence to the contrary.
Alice is like, sure, but you're just amateur sleuths, unlike Sheriff Keller. I don't know. You think Sheriff Keller is not an amateur sleuth? You have not been paying attention.
He's not even a novice.
No.
So the thing is, Alice was the one who asked Veronica and Archie to go into the trailer and search it. Why did she send them if she didn't trust them anyway?
Alice Cooper just has a sense for this thing. She knows that if Archie and Veronica confirm the things she suspects, they must be on the right case. If she says the things that are the opposite of what she suspects, they're just dumb kids.
It's Alice who's always right. And I think Luke Perry is just mad this entire scene because he got his threesome interrupted, because if we track back to last episode, he had 2 dates at the homecoming dance.
And now Alice is there, and she seems to be newly single, so, like, this could get wild.
And, yeah, Luke Perry flips out. He's just, like, mad at Archie. I can't blame him. If I was in that same situation, I would have thrown that kid out ages ago. I don't know, Luke Perry dismisses them, says, hey, we can't do anything about this. You guys broke and entered. You can't really go to the cops about that.
Which made no sense to me. They're like, someone says anything you found would be inadmissible in court, but, like, I don't think that's how it works. Like, I think you're not allowed to bring in illegally obtained evidence against the criminal, but I think exculpatory evidence, like, is allowed even if illegally obtained.
Well, that would be up to the judge whether it was admitted or not. It might be, though, and it's worth a shot. Also, it's not like FP is going to press charges on Archie and Veronica for, like, being able to testify that they think he's innocent because of the evidence they have.
Yeah, I thought evidence was only inadmissible in court if a law enforcement agent obtained that evidence while they didn't have a warrant. Like if the sheriff had gone into the trailer without a warrant and searched it and found the gun, that would not be admissible in court.
Correct. Illegal search or seizure. Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, hey, I'm not District Attorney Molly Ringwald, so what the fuck do I know? But the worst crime of the episode occurs in the next scene when Betty's in bed, but she's wearing socks, which anyone who wears socks to bed is a sinner and
Also,
should be cleansed.
She and Archie have androids. Gross.
Yeah, we're back to our classic Archie and Betty setup of them just texting each other from across the street and then breaking out of being grounded easily.
They go searching. Oh, Archie's wearing a shirt in bed in this scene. So I think he's tormenting himself for his failures by giving himself an anaphylactic reaction.
Mm-hmm. Little self-flagellation there.
And this was longer than I thought. I thought it was going to take less than 45 seconds to find Jughead. It was like 5 minutes into the episode before we see Jughead at the bus station.
Yes. And this whole thing is so dumb. He tries to get a ticket, but his mom doesn't want him to visit. And then the ticket taker is just like, nah, I can't get you anywhere.
So I love that he called his mom. We only hear Jughead's side of the conversation. Kevin, if you could call me, I'll be Jughead's mom. If you could just let me know you're coming to town, and we'll kind of take it from there and build the other side of the convo.
Okay. Mom, with Dad in prison, I'm just worried that I don't have a life here in Riverdale anymore. It would mean the world to me if I could come see you and Jellybean.
Yeah, I've got work in the morning. Jellybean, get out of Jughead. What are you saying?
I'm saying that Dad is a murderer and everyone
okay.
here is against me.
TV's really loud. I can't find the remote, so you're just gonna have to yell at me. Where do you're going somewhere?
Dad is a murderer and I want to be with you in Toledo.
Listen, wow. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. The couch is pretty small. This is not a good week.
I am literally homeless.
Yeah, the QVC is telling me there's a deal if I call right now, so I gotta hang up.
Fine, I'll just go to Citrusville, Florida then.
I just love that she just put him down, and he's like, Mom, I want to come visit you and Jellybean. Like, nah, don't bother.
Also, but she just said, like, last episode, why don't you all come move in with me? And now she's like, ooh, you're gonna want to come over? I need to, like, wash my hair tonight, so, like, I don't know.
I haven't cleaned the place in a while. But, okay, Citrusville, Florida is the place from the Marvel Comics where Man-Thing is from. And I don't think it's a real place in Florida, is it?
Oh.
Okay.
Who pays that much attention to Florida?
It sounds plausible because, citrus, Florida.
Yeah.
I buy it.
But I looked
I
it
know
up.
there's an Orange County, Florida, so this tracks with everything I vaguely know about Florida.
Citrusville is indeed a fictional city. So he just wanted to get in that Man-Thing swamp.
Hey.
All right.
Which they reference a lot of DC stuff. It was strange that they referenced a Marvel property, but the Archie universe is the middle ground between DC and Marvel. It exists in both worlds.
Yeah, they're kind of a real dark horse in the comics industry.
God damn it. You're going to give me vertigo with all these stupid references.
So while that was ridiculous that Jughead's mom suddenly didn't want him there, I also thought Cole Sprouse did an excellent job in the scene because I totally bought him. Like, you could see that he was really upset, but he kept his voice really calm. I thought it was a good job.
Yeah, not a lot of actors can pull off the one-sided phone conversation acting.
Right.
Yeah, he does a good job of not overselling emotion. And again, like, I'm not trying to hate on Lily Reinhart because she's one of the better actors on this show, but she has this scene later where she says the line, "I'm a blossom," and looks like she's about to, like, throw up on the table. And she really oversells it.
See, I loved that moment because I truly believed she would be viscerally disgusted by that.
And also that she might over-exaggerate it for effect in real life. I could see that.
See, I was like, wow, that might be a little bit far. I mean, I'm just trying to say Cole does a good job. He emotes without going over the top.
Yeah, then there's a later scene between Jughead and FP that also I found very arresting. No pun intended.
No, that pun was definitely intended. I know you.
Fair. But again, both actors did a fantastic job. I know we're not there yet, but really appreciated that work.
There is some sort of Veronica Hermione drama stuff, which again, I want to back burner and just move on with the plot unless you guys have something to say about this.
Nope, not a thing.
As always, I do not want to discuss it.
So anyway, then they meet up with Jughead at Pop's because he can't stay overnight at the bus station.
I have 2 points to make here.
Yes.
First, how dumb is it that Jughead just goes straight back to the place everyone looked first? Like, what was even the point of having him missing?
Also, Pop's is the only place in town that's open 24 hours. The people of Riverdale deserve a gas station, damn it. That is nonsense.
A 7-Eleven? Anything.
Nothing?
Yeah.
I'm also surprised that Jughead didn't just go from the bus station to the train station, where I assume his idol, the paragon of American literature, Ayn Rand, would have wanted him to go.
Oh, no, please don't make him into, what was her weird philosophy called?
Objectivism.
Yeah, if he goes on an objectivism thing, then I'm gonna turn on this character completely. Okay, so they find Jughead at Pop's and everyone's being nice.
Skipping back a little bit, I had questions about the phone booth that Jughead uses because I was like, what year is this supposed to be? And it turns out there are still about 100,000 phone booths in operation in the United States.
And 90,000 of them are in Riverdale.
Yeah, most of them Riverdale. One assumes some in Citrusville. And that's it.
That was strange to me, I guess, because everyone has cell phones. It was stated that they were trying to text and call Jughead, so we know he has a cell phone. I just assumed he was ignoring their calls, but he's using a payphone.
He's memorized his mom's new phone number in Toledo. No one memorizes phone numbers anymore. Wild.
Yeah, it was weird. They do some of that stuff. There's a later scene where they show cop cars for dragging the river, and they have like 1970s Dodge Coronets as cop cars.
Yeah, you see Kit from Knight Rider like come up alongside them.
But no, it's weird. I think they like do this thing where they're like, oh, we're gonna mix in the retro stuff, like the pop style 50s diner with all of these like new technologies, and I think they do it mostly for like the visual effect.
Wow, are you suggesting this show is shallow? Whoa, Hunter.
Look, you guys, they are far from shallow now. I do want to point out that when Archie and Veronica and everyone tells Jughead that FP was framed, it's played off like this big emotional beat again, but it's like, come on, we know this by now. Why are we still lingering on this?
Yeah, like it's only an emotional beat for Jughead, but since it's not a reveal to the audience, it's kind of sapped of some of its, I don't know what you would call it, impact.
Yeah, it's a lot like when FP winds up confessing to everything in the next scene. Like, they play these big dramatic stings, but we know at least half of the things he confessed to are lies. Like, we know he didn't steal Sheriff Keller's files. We know that Hal has those.
But we have a cutaway showing FP stealing files, so, like, it's not a flashback. It's just Sheriff Keller's imagination of FP stealing files.
I guess it's also unclear.
Who knows what's real? This is like a Life of Pi situation. Like, there's the truth, and then there's what we choose to believe, you know?
Yeah. I mean, FP is in the police station being questioned by Sheriff Keller. He coughs up all this stuff without a lawyer present, says, yeah, I shot Jason and disposed of his body. But the thing is, in the last episode, he was clean shaven, and it's been like a few hours and he's already got 3 days of beard growth going on. And I love that, like, yeah, this like drop of a hat, he can just instantly transform back into the true form of FP.
Well, the werewolf gene is rampant in Riverdale, I suspect, so I get it.
I do want to draw everyone's attention to this great line where FP reveals how he figured out that Jason Blossom was Cliff Blossom's son.
Then I put 2 and 2 together. Realized he was Cliff Blossom's son.
I put 2 and 2 together and realized that the kid named Blossom, with red hair, in this town of approximately 30 people, was the son of Cliff Blossom.
He's brilliant. I mean, Keller wishes he had those chops.
Sheriff Keller was actually way more on target than I expected in this scene. There's some line where FP's like, oh yeah, I agreed to let him be my drug mule, so I got him a station wagon and stashed some weed in the back. And I would have loved if Sheriff Keller was like, but like, what kind of station wagon? Because I've been looking to trade my truck in on something a little bit more, gets a little bit better mileage. What was your experience with that car before you burned it?
Keller also does a terrible job with the interrogation. At one point, he like gives away what happened. He's like, and then you put the body in the freezer. Like, only the kids apparently have watched Paradise Lost and Making a Murderer. You can't give away what happened. That's not how you do it. That leads to false confessions.
I do have to say, though, like, FP, he's a really good employer. Like, a random kid just walks out and says, hey, I'll deliver drugs. Like, cool, let me set you up with a car. Like, that is not how most businesses operate.
If I knew when I was like 16 that I could go to some bar and talk to a guy and he'd give me a station wagon and stash weed in the back, holy shit.
Just for delivering some drugs?
Yeah. I would have run away ages ago.
Right?
And I also, like, by this point in the episode, I think it's also fair to say, like, everything is so damn quiet. Like, why is this episode presented in whisper audio resolution? It's like the opposite of a THX sound system.
Oh man, I don't know. They're trying to make it really intense. And then I finally put my finger on why Sheriff Keller bothers me. He's like a dime store Timothy Oliphant.
Oh my god, that's so true.
Wow, yeah.
It was today when I remembered that show where Timothy Oliphant was a police like detective. Justified?
Was that? Yes.
Wow, now I'm really mad that it's not Timothy Oliphant, because then it would have been like Scream 1 and Scream 2 coming together. And that would have been so amazing if it was Timothy grilling FP. Missed opportunity.
They just got this guy who, if you squint, kind of looks like Timothy Oliphant.
Honestly, I'd settle for Timothée Chalamet at this point.
That would have been a very different vibe for the sheriff.
Very different.
This little scrawny waif of a sheriff.
This is an aside, but while I loved the new Little Women, and I love the book, and I love the old Little Women, a young Christian Bale and a young Timothée Chalamet, whatever the hell his name is, like, that is not equivalent. T-Sham is like so tiny and I don't know, not the same vibe at all. Does not have the gravity of Christian Bale whatsoever. If he played Batman, we would all be very upset.
Now I kind of want to see that.
He could do Spider-Man. I feel like that could be in the cards for him, but Batman, no.
Timothée Chalamet looks like every like teen boy on TikTok or Instagram who like posts their outfits for the day and asks for people's opinions on them.
100%.
You're not wrong. He's got some serious acting chops, though.
He can definitely act, and he was way better. Like, when I first saw him on screen, I was like, really? But I believed him as Laurie eventually, and it was great. But yeah, I don't know.
Not having those preconceptions, like, wow, he is nailing the foppish, like, gentry aspect of this character.
I don't think I've ever seen the guy in a film, so I need to watch that. I need to
go watch Little Women, Hunter. It's great.
I'll catch up by next week.
All right, so the group discusses the false confession, and Jughead is just like, well, knew you guys were lying to me.
Right, and the sheriff's like, wow, you have some different information, but this guy just confessed, and we all know that no one has ever in history confessed to a crime they didn't commit, so, like, case closed.
We cut over to Thornhill, where the Blossoms are like, Polly, they caught Jason's killer, it's FP, and...
I'm sorry, Hunter, you delivered that with a little too much emotion for the Blossom family. Could you try saying it a bit more robotically?
Our son's killer was found.
Perfect.
He'll no longer trouble us. Sit. Devour your sustenance, Polly. Wow, I really sank into the character of Penelope there. But the thing is, Cliff says, oh, I went and, like, looked him in the eye and, you know, talked with him. What the hell is up with Sheriff Keller where he just lets people in to, like, talk to suspects that are not law enforcement personnel? There's no way Cliff Blossom should have ever been allowed to do this. So the second that happens, you know that he would just, like, threaten the shit out of FP to make him lie. And you know it's just like, oh, yeah, all you had to do was say, I will kill your son if you don't confess to this murder.
It's so baffling. Like, we make fun of Sheriff Keller a lot, but letting someone who's not a lawyer, who's not in any way involved with the investigation, in the middle of an interrogation and then leaving him alone with the suspect, like, how is that not just the most damaging thing to any case?
Yes. And it's suspicious that someone who's had as many brushes with the law as FP and who is pretty high up in the Southside Serpents would even talk to a police officer without a lawyer present. Like, that's already kind of fishy.
Very fishy. But, you know, they ask you, like, you have the right to an attorney or a syrup mogul. So which would you prefer?
Yeah, so we know that for sure. The headline on the Riverdale Register is no longer Cheryl Blossom is guilty of sin. So they had to cut that 174-part series short.
I was really looking forward to the 173rd issue. Which is where everything would wrap up, and then the 174th would inexplicably still happen anyway.
I have one really random question. Because we go over to the high school where Archie's like, hey, Jughead's not coming into school today. He's talking with the cops. And Kevin defends his father's actions. Is Kevin's hair darker in this episode? Or am I just, like, having some sort of Mandela effect?
Wow, I did not pick up on that. And now I'm going to have to rewatch it and see.
I'm sorry, there's a character named Kevin in this series? When did that happen?
But I did pick up on something I picked up on several, like, physical attribute things, one of which, it comes a little later, but there's just a close-up of Kajapa where I was like, holy shit, his face is 30% eyebrows. And that's probably been true the whole time, I just hadn't picked up on it before.
Maybe they're growing.
I was astonished.
I mean, he's a good-looking guy, so I think it works on him.
It works for him, but I just hadn't realized the ratio. Wow.
Yeah, he's got a lot of that going on.
Just very brow-forward look there.
So, Jughead comes back to school, and was this the scene that you were referencing earlier, Sarah, that you liked?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow, I didn't mean that, like, I hate this scene.
Oh, no. Scene was garbage. No one lays a hand on Cole Sprouse.
I was very confused, though, why Veronica was dressed like a first-grade teacher at a Catholic school. Like, her outfits are getting worse and worse. This was extremely prim, and I was baffled.
It's actually a dress made entirely out of Mont Blancs.
She dresses strangely for everything. Earlier when they went looking for Jughead, she had been in her pajamas and called Archie, and she's like, oh, I'll meet you guys to look for him.
Wait, you and Betty went on a manhunt without me? I'll come meet you.
And she shows up with, like, hair and makeup done in a dress and heels to go searching for a lost boy.
Don't forget the mink stole.
Also, she still had makeup on in her pajamas, and she was wearing, like, coordinated silk PJs. I don't know. I don't buy any of this. That's not how anyone operates.
No, like, you take your makeup off when you get home and get in your PJs.
If you put any on, you know, whatever.
Yeah. So, but it's like Archie and Veronica in this scene, they'd have, like, a little secret handhold under the table.
It was disgusting.
I think we're supposed to find it cute, but I don't care.
It's not. If it was Betty and Jughead, then I would be like, oh, that's so cute. But now, because it's Archie and Veronica, I'm like, oh, this crap again?
Oh, yeah, that got a big eye roll from me.
But I did really like Jughead and Cheryl. Their hand holding under the table was adorable.
I did think that scene was sweet. I like how Jughead just took the punches. I do not understand why Principal Weatherby called Jughead away and was so mad at him. Like, did he forget to hang up some streamers? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, Principal Weatherby sucks almost as bad as Sheriff Keller does.
They make every single parent and authority figure awful in this show. There isn't one you can point to that isn't a complete tool. So Cheryl slaps the shit out of Jughead to the point where like he has blood coming from his lip, and she pummels him in the chest with her fists while he does nothing to defend himself after like apologizing for her brother's death and his dad's part in it.
I'm sorry, Cheryl.
Mr. Jones, you need to come with me. Right now.
And then Cheryl, like 2 minutes later, when Betty goes to her, it's like, I barely touched him. He was bleeding.
She's just working on her alibi.
Totally. That's just her reflex greeting at this point. Barely touched him. It's fine. Also, at this point, I feel like I noticed it last episode too, but Betty has fallen prey. Well, Lily Reinhart has fallen prey to the thing that happens to many leading ladies on TV shows, where like she's lost like 8 pounds since the beginning of this show, and I have concerns. She's much skinnier. I don't like it.
I agree with you. I'm not a huge fan of that.
I'm sure there was tons of backlash online because people on the internet are awful, but don't give in. Be strong.
It's always weird if you ever see like still pictures of people that you've seen in films, or if you ever run into a celebrity, they look scarily thin. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's like an unhealthy amount. I mean, I know like the camera adds 10 pounds or whatever, so they're all like 20 pounds underweight. It's kind of creepy.
One of the few actresses I've met in real life is Carrie Russell. And she is still probably one of the tiniest women I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, she's short also, but she was just so small that I was like, whoa.
Yeah, she's a twig to
She's
begin
gorgeous,
with.
but she was so tiny.
So I feel like Lily Reinhart was a very slim person, and then after like the first couple episodes, she probably saw like awful stuff online and dropped weight. Or else maybe, you know what, for all I know, she has some sort of medical condition or is dealing with a tapeworm and she just lost weight anyway.
You never know, and like, if that's true, like, I apologize for pointing out your struggle, but yeah, it's rough. It's like, this is very evident in like Friends as well, or Colby Smulders from How I Met Your Mother, big time. It's just always something I notice, and I'm like, oh, that's so sad. Why are people the worst?
Because they're people.
Yeah,
yes.
That's fair.
Betty and Jughead have a brief talk, and he's kind of like, give up on my dad. He's pretty much a douche, in case you haven't realized. And it's understandable. Jughead's had a rough day. Luke Perry just makes it worse then at the Andrews family home.
Yeah.
Where he's like, oh, Jughead is supposed to finish the rest of the semester from home, and he can't really stay here because I'm not his legal guardian, and he's going to have to fend for himself.
He's just ready to sell Jughead down the river immediately for literally nothing.
And Archie, for like half a minute, tries to stand up and be like, Jughead's done nothing wrong, which is true. And then Luke Perry's like, oh, why don't you just move to Chicago with your mom? And Archie, rather than being like, hey, let's get back on topic, I just want to stay here and help my friends, is like, maybe I'll give up on helping my friends and I will move to Chicago, Dad.
Well, you know.
But Chicago is so 2 years ago.
Well, you know that once he calls his mom and asks if he can move in with her, she's like, ooh, now's not a great time.
I just started dating a new guy, and I just think it's too early for you to meet him, so let's think about that maybe like junior or senior year.
Also, I apologize for all of our podcast listeners who are not fans of early Fall Out Boy and missed that reference entirely.
Yeah, you can just take the rest of those references to your grave.
Wow.
To be fair, do we really want listeners who aren't Fall Out Boy fans?
No, I just have Fall Out Boy, Take This to Your Grave song lyrics floating around in my head. This is a problem.
My pen is the barrel of my gun.
Anyway, so Jughead apologizes to Archie that he has to deal with shit on his behalf, and Archie says, hey man, you were the last good thing about this part of town.
Knew you were going there.
I was about to make the same exact joke. So right next door in the Cooper house, there's a break-in. And does Alice have Grundy's pistol from earlier in the season?
I believe so, which led to my question of, like, what is the deal with Grundy's pistol? Because we were all so suspicious about that in episode 3 or 4, and now just, it existed.
I like to think that Betty has stolen many guns, and they're just scattered all throughout the Cooper household.
But Alice is quick. Like, she hears a strange noise downstairs. Could be raccoons at the trash, but no, she's got her revolver. She has a revolver in her hand.
Oh, yeah. She is ready to kill someone.
She has petitioned the state legislature to enact stand your ground laws.
Throwback to Tilton Doily?
She wants to murder someone and get away with it.
How do you stop a bad guy with a gun?
A badder woman with a gun.
Or a well-written expose.
Same.
So they find Hal downstairs, and Alice points the gun at his back and says, "Don't move, hands where I can see them," which is exactly what she says to him during sex.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so it's Hal. Hal reveals that he was the one who stole Sheriff Keller's files.
These are Sheriff Keller's files about the Blossom murder investigation.
How did you get these, Dad?
And then what I thought was a great writing moment for this series, Ben's like, how'd you do that? Like, how. You accused him of this,
already said he did it.
7 episodes ago.
Yeah, that was such a weird question. She's like, how did you do this? He's like, I asked Sheriff Keller if I could borrow him. He said, fine. They're like, what are you
Betty, I was the only one who didn't go to the drive-in that night in town, so it was obviously me.
Yeah, like the day after I did it, you accused me of doing it the exact way that I did it.
It's just so weird it wasn't like, I knew it. I knew you did it. Like, how hard is it to change the writing just a little so it's consistent?
So hard. Also, I just got a little furious during this scene because, like, why wouldn't Hal have just told everyone about the incest thing right away? Like, oh, hey, Polly, maybe you should date this guy because he's your third cousin.
Yeah, that would have nipped it in the
I realized then we wouldn't have a show, but, like, come on, Hal.
Betty, your great-grandfather wasn't just murdered by a Blossom. He was a Blossom.
There's a time and a place to reveal family secrets about how the Coopers and the Blossoms are related, and it's probably right around the time your daughter has her first date with the guy who's her third cousin.
Right.
Instead of, oh, wow, she's in her third trimester, carrying his baby. Which was a disgusting turn for this show, honestly.
It's a little rough. Yeah. I love, though, that when they go to confront the Blossoms about this, the Blossoms are just like, wait, you think we were upset by incest? Have you met us?
Oh my god.
Cheryl finds out and she's like, oh, suddenly it's fine if it's Polly and Jason, but when it was me and him, you guys weren't so pleased.
What incest?
Hal's grandfather wasn't just your grandpappy's murder victim. They were brothers, which made him a Blossom, just like Hal. You were disgusted that Jason and Polly were dating because they were related.
Nothing could be more purely Blossom than those babies.
Yeah, Penelope's exact words are like, nothing could be more purely Blossom, and it's like, oh.
Why is she so into the bloodline? Didn't she marry into the Blossom family, or is she just from another branch?
Ooh,
no, she's also probably a third or second cousin.
Oh.
Do you want the actual answer to this? Because I actually uncovered the reason.
I kind of do. Just, like, get all the gross incest stuff out of the way so I don't have to be disgusted again.
Okay, so, it turns out Penelope was adopted directly into the Blossom family as a child so that she could be groomed to be the wife of, Cliff.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard about that app in Iceland since their population's so small where...
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like it tells you if you're related to the person you're on a date with so you don't fuck them? They need that in Riverdale.
They really do.
Alice is incredible in the scene where they show up to Thornhill to get Polly. When she just starts laying down like these jokes about it being witching hour at the Blossom house and stuff, she commands the room.
Yeah, I just have to say that the Blossoms confronting the Blossoms in the Blossoms' house that Polly being taken back from the Blossoms really was a great scene.
Not confusing at all to our listeners who don't watch the show.
It's just all funny. I did appreciate Cliff saying, like...
It's not like they were brother and sister. They were, what, third cousins?
Because that was my thought, too. It's like, yeah, that's weird, but from a genetic standpoint, third cousins are genetically safe to breed with. Like, it's still weird, but...
Also, I've decided that from here on out, we should refer to this family as the Bloopers. Because they're Blossom Coopers, and it was a mistake.
Again, they could have chose any last name. They could have chose, like, Kilgore or something, and they chose Cooper instead.
You'd think there'd be something more symbolic, like, I don't know,
Good one.
Thank you.
We'll cut in something else, you know?
Edit this so that I said something witty, Hunter.
Okay.
Maybe a different, like, more potent kind of,
Rosebud.
plant, like, creeping strangler.
That's where we have the Island of Dr. Moreau reference, which proves that Alice and I both went through an H.G. Wells phase. And they get Polly out of Thornhill.
And then Penelope inexplicably threatens Betty over the whole interaction. She, like, grabs Betty and is like, you just made a big mistake, kid. Like, Alice is the one, like, barging in and making the threats here.
Yeah, who knows? But Betty doesn't back down. She's kind of badass.
Yeah.
She is. All right, so then we have questioning Joaquin. He's just walking right into this storyline.
Oh, God.
And Kevin uses the full weight of his power as the sheriff's son.
Yeah, what did that mean?
I don't know.
It's a legal position, you guys.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm asking you as the sheriff's son, so
Take
legally
it from...
you have to answer honestly.
Take it from someone who was the child of, like, a semi-high-ranking police officer in Orange County. Like, being the son of a prominent deputy gives you a lot of powers.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that to Sarah, Kevin? Have you ever just been like, I'm not talking to you as your boyfriend. I'm talking to you as a sheriff deputy's son?
Yeah, of course. How do you think I get her to do the dishes when I don't feel like doing them? I do want to backpedal a little bit because Jughead, before they talk to Joaquin, says this line about, I thought my dad was taking an interest in me. He even read my manuscript, but it was just so he could see if, like, I was revealing that he was murdered. And poor Jughead had to learn the harshest lesson of all, that no one, not even family, is ever interested in a first draft manuscript.
It's true, and that it hurts because it's true. But Jughead's sardonic humor is back whenever they're at Pops with Molly Ringwald, where he's like, oh, he confessed to it, at least he's an honest murderer. So they chose a weird time for that character trait to resurface.
They really did.
Is this where Jughead goes and visits FP in prison?
Yes, this is the scene I was talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah, I should have figured it was that scene. Now you have to go off on it.
Yeah, both Skeet Ulrich and Cole Sprouse did a great job in this scene, I thought. I really bought it. There was a lot that they had to show with their faces, and they really did a great job, I think. That's all I have to say.
It's also worth noting that Jughead is a much better investigator in the scene than Sheriff Keller is, because way in the future from now, he's like, yeah, I talked to my dad for 5 minutes. It's pretty clear he's lying about the confession.
But also, you already knew that, Jughead. Like, you already knew the evidence was planted. I don't understand how it's, like, revelatory, how he's calling Betty after this conversation with FP and being like, wait, Betty, I think my dad maybe didn't do it. That's been established, Jughead.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I mean, he had to see for himself, but...
I guess.
Look, heavy is the head that wears the crown hat, you guys.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, no, there was good acting in that scene, and I think that Cole Sprouse and Skeet Ulrich are actually, like, they're pretty good on screen together. When I look back at the different one-on-one scenes we've had, I think they're kind of more powerful than a lot of the other duos we get. A lot better than Archie and Luke
compared
Perry.
Totally better than Archie and Luke Perry. And like compared to like Hermione and Veronica, where I literally can't take in what's happening because my brain is like, nope.
Oh, my next section in my notes is titled "I sigh every time Veronica is on screen."
Mm-hmm.
So she says something about something. They find out from Joaquin that Mustang was involved in the murder.
This is where it all gets so confusing to me because it seems like, because we've established that in the flashbacks where FP is confessing, FP didn't do at least half that stuff. So I think Mustang was the one who did most of the stuff in regards to like kidnapping and dealing with Jason. But then the person who we find out is the murderer decided to frame FP and kill Mustang, when it seems like the more obvious choice would be to frame Mustang.
There was a lot of things here. The bag of money, which we get to, also I thought was an odd inclusion because it didn't need to be. They plant a bag of money where they find Mustang's dead body, and the bag of money is the same one that Hermione gave to the mayor, which implies that the lodges had something to do with this. Why would you bring that into the case when it was cut and dry of FP was holding Jason for ransom from the Blossom, something went wrong, and he killed the kid and disposed of the body? That was like a nice, tidy thing that we never had to go and bring the lodges into it. I was baffled by that. It's, again, a pitiful attempt to make Veronica matter in this series.
Yeah.
There was one really good line in the scene where they question Joaquin. Well, a couple, because there was the Sheriff's son line. Kevin has another where he's looking at Joaquin and says, "You are a criminal." It's like, no shit.
He's in a gang.
He was
Kevin.
upfront about that from like the first time you guys made out.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, look at my tattoo. I'm in a gang." What do you think he joined the Serpents for? Like, wow, you know, and their clubhouse is a great place to study for my online courses. We've got
really more of a supper club, you know.
Yeah, some of the guys have been teaching me crochet. Of course he's a criminal. That was the whole reason you were attracted to him, Kevin. That and his beautiful eyes.
That he does have beautiful eyes.
I don't know the actor's name, but if you're listening, just, you know, feel good.
I do want to point out that Sheriff Keller's explanation for what happened is so baffling. He says, "Oh, Mustang, he was probably just feeling the heat. That's why he killed himself." And it's like, really? He was feeling the heat of a closed investigation where the prime suspect already confessed.
And said he worked alone.
Yes.
Dude.
Yeah.
And I like that when they go to find Mustang, he lives at the end of a trail of food wrappers, like a cartoon character who just got a midnight snack. And Veronica comments on like, "Oh, it's dirty," and it's all just like bags of peanuts and like soft drink cups.
Also, in a town this small, really everyone should carry Narcan on them. Narcan?
That sounds right.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, it's the stuff that you give to people who have a heroin overdose, and it revives them.
Oh, I thought you just did adrenaline shots into their heart.
Same thing.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah, we also get a great reveal that Sheriff Keller doesn't understand how initials work.
Yes. He's like, whoa, two people could have the same initials. Holy shit.
Yeah, because Hermione's bag, it has HL. I was like,
Hermione Lodge, mind explaining to me why your initials are on this bag?
Not Hermione Lodge, Sheriff. Hiram Lodge.
And Sheriff Keller's like, what?
Or Henry LeBlanc, or Harriet Lancaster, or Horatio Littleton.
And originally, this episode actually spent a bit more time exploring Sheriff Keller's revelation that two different people can have the same initials. And we've managed to unearth this rare footage. So let's have a listen.
So, thanks for coming on down to the station.
I had no choice. I'm in handcuffs, and they put me in the prison van.
Right. Can you state your full name for the record?
Brittany Tamara King.
Thanks. Anyway, remember how you said you were innocent? That you weren't the BTK killer?
Yeah, I told you that I've never killed anyone, that BTK was already in jail, and that I'd never even been to Kansas. Also, I was born in 1992, after all of BTK's crimes were committed, and, you know, I'm a woman.
Sure, and those were all good points. but your initials are BTK.
BTK stands for Bind, Torture, Kill, sir. That's what Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, said in his letters.
What an interesting theory.
He's confessed to all of this, Sheriff.
I did think that was strange, but the initials were the same.
Lots of people have these initials.
So I've learned. I had an enlightening conversation with a woman named Sonia Ortega Sanchez this morning. I'm starting to think she might not be the son of Sam killer after all, but that SOS, it's still suspicious.
Sheriff, David Berkowitz, the son of Sam killer, has been in prison since 1977.
Why do you know that, Brittany? You a big fan of his? Did he inspire you to Brittany, Tamara, and King, innocent women?
What? Those aren't verbs. You can't Brittany someone.
A likely story.
I want a lawyer.
Sorry, can't get you a lawyer, but I can invite a random rich man to come talk to you in private before you confess.
How would that help anything?
Guard, take her back.
Am I ever gonna get a trial? You haven't even charged me with anything.
You know what you did, BTK. Take her. And while you're at it, go arrest Hermione Lodge. She almost got me with her "those are my husband's initials" trick. Nice try, HL, but nothing gets past Sheriff Keller.
Yeah, that's illuminating.
Yeah.
Imagine if he had monogram stuff around his house. I feel like he'd get confused all the time.
Whose towels are these?
Does he have a first name, or is it just like everything is just Sheriff Keller?
I was just wondering that. Don't know, because if it's a name that starts with K, yeah, he must get his stuff confused with Kevin's all the time.
Yeah. Maybe if he looks at his son's initials, he's like, I shouldn't have given him the middle name Kellen.
He's like, damn it, it's weird that I have history homework, but I guess I have to do this. It's my name on it, so.
After that, Joaquin decides to leave town forever to avoid charges, even though I don't think anyone knows he was involved. And he gets the amazing goodbye line of,
I'm gonna miss you, Preppy.
Was that your favorite line from this episode besides the Mont Blanc pen?
I think that was my cringiest line, the "I'm gonna miss you, Preppy," because honestly, Kevin is not preppy.
Yeah, Kevin's just James Kevin is actually just annoyed because I use that line when I leave for work every morning, and he's, much more preppy.
Yeah, I agree with that. That goes back to my first impression of Kevin.
But seriously, Kevin Keller is not preppy. He's just like a normal gay kid.
Yeah, he's not like wearing boat shoes and like several polos with popped collars.
It's so weird.
It's strange, but then Joaquin, right before he leaves, like he says goodbye, goes to get on the bus, turns around, gets on the bus, and then comes back out. There's like so many false starts to his exit that I thought they were going to play this like a Naked Gun thing where the bus starts to pull away and then it stops and he comes back. He's like, okay, one more thing before I go. But no, he tells them, I guess, where to find the Letterman jacket that has been touted as insurance.
This whole thing is so baffling to me. Like, we learn later that what's on the flash drive is a very clear image of Cliff murdering Jason. And it's like, why did you keep that as insurance? It seems like you could have turned that over, heavily edited, right away.
Also, why does the basement of the White Worm have security cameras? That seems like the last thing that gang members would want.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to kind of be like this thing. No one goes down there. It's where the secret stuff happens, so they wouldn't want any video evidence. But I don't know. FP thinks of all possible angles. And I guess Cheryl is kind of like suspicious of her own family for some reason and is asking about what was going on between Jason and her dad for the umpteenth time.
Oh yeah, she's like, hey, did you or dad kill Jason? And Penelope responds with a very strong denial of dragging her out to the syrup barn and being like, look at the syrup. Which does not address the question.
There it is! There's the sticky, dark, dirty truth. Maple syrup. Drown in it, why don't you?
this is my worst line in the episode for cringe.
It's pretty bad.
The sticky, dark, dirty truth.
Drown in it, why don't you?
Gross.
Has she been practicing this confession her entire life? She seemed oddly prepared.
It was super strange, but at this point, I don't understand half of what the Blossom family does.
I did like the dealings with the murder board where they finally removed all of the extra suspects and they get to Hermione and like, oh, by the way, she had an alibi, so she probably shouldn't have been up here this whole time.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah, she wasn't in town. Why was she even on the wall, kids?
Hermione. Yeah. Veronica says she's guilty of plenty, but not murder. Plus, she has an alibi. She was in New York.
Exactly. I mean, we've been saying that since, like, episode 1. That there's no way the Lodges could have been involved in this. I don't know why it took Jughead and Betty, who are both fairly smart characters, 12 episodes to get there, too.
It's so apparent in retrospect that this mystery had so few components to it that really it should have been solved pretty early on. Like, I don't know why Cliff didn't frame someone right from the beginning. I don't know why FP didn't deliver the hard drive right from the beginning. This was all just drawn out for no real reason.
Yeah, now that I think about it, your son washes up dead. As Cliff Blossom, you know you killed him. The thing is, to stop the investigation, you need to feed someone to the cops. They should have had someone... You should have either already been in the process of framing someone, like from episode 1, or had already done it.
Yeah.
Especially because, well, this would assume that Sheriff Keller is competent, which we know is not the case, but the first primary suspects are always the family. Like, it would have been suspicion on Cliff and Penelope, and to some degree Cheryl, pretty much immediately.
Yes, and like that's why Cheryl was the first person that was arrested. So you would have thought, okay, the police are onto something. I need to pin this on someone else and fast. But hey, at a certain point, I just need to say this show is not here to be like a procedural or detective drama.
No, Cliff was just like, Cheryl can take the fall. She would look great in a Viridian jumpsuit. It'll be fine.
I know it's not here to be a procedural, but if you're going to have this element to it, like, at the end of the day, it has to hang together and make sense.
Oh, things hang together.
Whoa. It has to do what
wow,
now?
Now that was not intentional, but I really set you guys up, didn't I? I set you up harder than Cliff set up FP.
Other question is, Hermione gave the bag of cash directly to Mayor McCoy in a scene that we saw early in the season. How did that money get into the hands of presumably the Blossoms so they could plant it on Mustang's dead body? Are we to assume that Mayor McCoy is also involved in this?
I think Mary McCoy and Mustang had a secret relationship that took place mostly in that motel room.
I was going with Hermione and Mustang had something going on because she collapses in tears after she and Veronica get home from the crime scene.
Ooh, that's true.
Honestly, I don't think the creators thought through this at all. I think they completely forgot about the bag of money and are like, oh, that's still dangling. Let's set it up over here.
Wouldn't Mary McCoy already have laundered that and had it in her personal account?
In a normal show, yes.
All right, new theory. It's not the same money. Mary McCoy already took the money. She just threw out the bag. And Cliff Blossom was dumpster diving, came across it, and thought this will be great for framing someone.
Oh yeah, he's always on the lookout for finds like that. Then we have the kids looking at the Letterman jacket, and they're staring at it like, huh, it just looks like a jacket. And I'm just sitting there like, Jesus Christ, look in the pockets. How is this that complicated? Finally, Betty gets there.
And then everyone treats her like she's crazy for suggesting searching the pockets.
And they're like, Betty, you genius. This is right, Nancy Drewing or whatever. Like, no, that's the most obvious thing to do.
Okay, so they find the USB drive in like a hole in the bottom of the pocket. I know this just keeps going back to nothing making sense, but why would you hide the USB with this footage on it in this Letterman jacket instead of just putting the USB drive in some sort of little safe?
Because it's not as dramatic.
Yeah, and then everyone watches the snuff film, and they all look so bored by this. Like, everyone's like, yeah, whatever, murder. Betty gets a good cry face on, but the rest of them just, like, zero reaction.
I also want to know what else is on that USB. Is it just the one film? Is it full of snuff film?
This is just a torrented copy of Blair Witch 2. Some half-finished documents from when FP was writing his screenplay.
FP's audition for Big Brother.
Some old family photos.
I'm sorry. I want to make that now. And we later see that it's this security camera footage of Cliff Blossom shooting Jason. And I wanted everyone in that garage to look at Archie and him to be like, I'm still keeping the red suit. It's a nice suit. It was a gift.
Amazing.
It doesn't change my feelings about Cliff, okay?
Me and him really connected.
I'm also just I don't understand how the cover up happened. Apparently Cliff just shot Jason and then without any additional communication just left the mess for FP and Joaquin to clean up.
There must have been some communication where he's like, oh, you have my son? You know what, FP? I'll take care of it.
But anyway, my personal theory about why Cliff killed Jason is for the bling.
Oh, yeah, because he takes the ring back.
He takes the ring. That's all he really wanted.
My whole thing was, and maybe this is jumping at, we'll wait till the end, actually, before I have my theory, which I thought was really self-evident, but I could be way off the map. So FP is still in trouble after all this.
Well, also, Betty calls Cheryl right away to warn her to get out of the house, which is very nice of Betty. And Cheryl comes downstairs and says,
Cheryl, what is it?
You did a bad thing, Daddy. And now everyone knows.
Which is now her favorite game to play in the bedroom, and it's all Cliff's fault.
Oh, God. Okay. That was one of my cringe lines, because throughout the series, Cheryl has referred to her parents only as mommy and daddy. And it's just really, I don't know, it's unsettling from a kid that's supposed to be her age.
Yeah.
Right. Also, a very weird response. A very weird way to say, hey, you killed the person that I loved most in the whole world.
Yeah.
You did a bad thing, Daddy.
Cheryl got so little to do these past episodes, and it has nothing to do with where she was emotionally in the last time she was a major player in this series. It seemed like she was ready to get mad at Archie and Polly, and now she's just been doing nothing, moping around, and just casually being like, by the way, Dad, knew you committed murder, so I'm a little disappointed about that.
So, yeah, that was the thing. Last episode, she ran away from the homecoming dance because Archie and Veronica looked like they were, cute together. And then this episode, I think they just did it just because it was, ooh, let's have this shot where she stares blankly ahead and says, you did a bad thing, Daddy, and now everyone knows. Even though it makes zero sense for any human ever to do that. Unless you're one of the twins from The Shining.
Do any of Cheryl's lines make sense for a human to deliver, though? I mean, no.
Scatter, bitches.
This hothouse flower.
At least those were kind of in her character, even though her character was super obnoxious and a caricature of a teenager.
Yeah. They made a kind of sense in a heightened reality version of the stereotypical queen bitch character. But the rest of her actions are just baffling.
Yes. From here, we find out FP is still getting charged with tampering with a body and withholding evidence. But I don't know anything about crime, so Sarah, I'm looking to you to help me out. Is there any sort of leniency when it comes to blackmail, a blackmail clause? Cliff Blossom said he was going to kill my son if I didn't do these things.
I mean, that would be probably the defense strategy, but he would still get charged with accessory after the fact.
All right.
And tampering with evidence and all of that.
I better not get blackmailed.
No promises.
I thought there was a thing of guys, I was blackmailed, and the judge is understandable.
Oh, no worries then.
There's probably a limit to it, though.
No worries, bro. Happened to me once.
Oh, you had reason, so it's all good. Yeah, no, it doesn't quite work like that.
Fuck.
So then we learn that Hiram is coming home, which now that they know he didn't commit a murder, they're excited about. Daddy's Coming Home is now Veronica's favorite game to play in the bedroom, and it's all Hiram's fault.
God. Veronica apologizes to Hermione and says, I'm sorry that I thought Dad was a murderer. And then Hermione's like, Mija, everyone makes mistakes. If they had just gone a step further and she said, and this will be your last, and she just action movie just
and then
snapped,
she shoots Veronica in the face.
just like snapped her neck, that would have made it the best episode of any television show ever.
That would have been pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So everything else from there would have really been falling action. But this is where we get to the scene that inspired what I think is our best podcast title ever, Sarah.
Oh,
Go for it.
It ends with a real cliffhanger.
I'm still not over that joke.
I'm not over it either, and I'm the one that made it.
Yeah, Cliff just goes out to the syrup barn, where everyone goes to commit suicide and hangs himself.
And then we learn that the Blossoms made the OG scissor.
Yeah, apparently the syrup barrels are really just filled with drugs. They've been drug smuggling this whole time.
That sweet Georgia Brown.
Which makes sense because while maple syrup does, it's pretty lucrative, it's not Blossom lucrative.
Can we backtrack to a couple things we know about the Blossoms?
No, we're done here.
Hey.
Okay, go on.
Trustee board full of redheads and everything. Those people are all like a cartel of drug runners, right?
Yes, it's so weird to think that they treated themselves as if they were a real corporation when it's just drug running.
And the maple ceremony, you would think they would have been like, oh, and this is, the ritual plucking of the poppy or something. Because we find out that all the maple syrup barrels are just filled with packets of drugs.
Well, I guess maybe the implication is that that's what Jason didn't have the stomach for.
Yes. Yeah. So
it's that's the secret part of the business that maybe the board doesn't know about. I don't know.
It made it very clear that Cliff's motive for murder was, oh, my son was trying to run away from the fact that our business is trafficking narcotics. And, there's the chance he could have blown the whistle on the whole thing. So I had to, cut that loose end and kill him.
Yeah, it's not said out loud, but, all the pieces are there. You can put it together pretty easily. So when the closing narration is so why did Cliff murder Jason? We can figure it out from here.
Yeah, context clues.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that was so much of a mystery. And I guess for me, since it ends on this shot of Cliff Blossom killed himself, we still have one episode left in this season. Sorry for that voice crack there, but I'm still going through
It's
puberty.
okay. You're just emerging from your chrysalis of puberty.
Your worm is turning. It's fine.
The white worm has turned was another title for this episode. But what's gonna happen in the next episode, the finale for season 1?
I actually have a fantastic prediction about this. The next episode will just be 44 straight minutes of Jughead editing and revising his manuscript and getting shot down while writing querying letters to various agents.
Okay. I mean, mine was, it's gonna cut between Cheryl inherits the family business and she just has kind of a wacky first day on the job as kind of a white El Chapo. And then the other half of the story is everyone in the town mourning Mustang because he was the town Santa at Christmas. He coached the Little League team. He volunteered at the church, and everyone's just gathering for his memorial.
Oh my goodness. I would love that. That'd be amazing world building.
That would be great.
So maybe the next episode we find out that the mayor is somehow involved in this and she's presumably passed bribe money on to Cliff. And they've got to do something to set up some huge thing to hook you and make you want to see season 2. I have no idea what that's going to be.
I do know, and so I will not say anything.
All right, so yeah, those are our predictions. Should we go on to scores?
Did you have any other cringy lines that we didn't cover first?
No, those were all of them. There weren't that many cringy lines this episode, which was a nice, refreshing change of pace, but they still slipped a few good ones in there.
Yeah. I think I had one more that we didn't touch on, maybe two. The first was when Archie's talking to Veronica about FP, admitting to murdering someone that he didn't kill, he says, "It's weird." And Veronica says, "What does Betty think?" Archie's response is, "She thinks it's weird."
Yeah.
That's the old Andrew's eloquence.
Yeah. There were many lines that weren't really cringy in the sense of the lines being bad, but were just obnoxious.
Yeah.
Because they didn't make sense. So one was like, Betty says, "Well, and we can rule out my dad because now we know why he was acting shady." Which is a great point because no one can be shady about more than one thing, so...
Not to mention, they put him on the board in the first place because they suspect he stole the files, and now that they know for a fact he stole the files,
they're like, didn't do it. What? I don't know.
I had the same note where I was like, maybe don't take him off so fast. But, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of moments here that didn't make sense. It was more of like story turns that made me cringe, more so than lines.
Yeah.
Also, Molly Ringwald is suddenly like, "Bye, I'm going to Chicago." Okay, but why were you even there? What was going on? Are you getting divorced? Was that always happening? Was this just a visit? I have no idea.
Yeah, there is no closure on the Andrews family drama.
No, she's just like, "Bye."
Sure had fun on my visit during this murder investigation.
Yeah, so I'd say this was a pretty good episode. I appreciate all the stuff that happened. So I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 Lost Mont Blancs.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this. I'll agree. That was 4 out of 5 drug barrels.
Oh man, we have the same score, all of us, because mine was 4 out of 5, which are also the odds that Jughead and Betty are related.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
I don't have anything else for this, but next episode is the season finale for season 1 of Riverdale.
Yeah, the finale, which is titled The Sweet Hereafter.
I was going to say in advance, never heard that title before in my life.
I actually remember a trivia thing about this episode. This next one.
Anything you can share?
Yes, I think so. So this is not a huge spoiler, I don't think, especially because you're about to watch it. But when Archie punches through the ice, KJ Apa in real life broke his hand doing that. He got really into it.
Not his guitar hand, though, right?
No, not his guitar hand. His other hand that has nothing to do with the guitar when he plays it. So no worries.
Oh man, we got ice punching? This is like...
Oh yeah,
this is like
it's a good one.
Scene in Four Brothers with Mark Wahlberg and Andre 3000.
It's a lot more like the scene in Little Women, which you would understand the reference I just made. Hunter,
I'll work on a new theme song for this episode then.
It.
Ice punch.
There's ice punching
All
in
right.
Little... Oh, sorry.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks for listening to Gritty Reboot. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, please leave a review because it really helps us grow. In the meantime, you can reach us on Twitter at GrittyRebootPod or by email at grittyrebootpodcast@gmail.com. You can check our website, grittyrebootpodcast.com, for info about the show, past episodes, and upcoming news. We look forward to seeing you next time.